And we are live. Coolio. So, Arnold Schwarzenegger. Arnold Schwarzenegger said that shit. I kind of agree with him, actually, although not exactly on this topic. COVID isn't that deadly, and there's very serious questions about the vaccine, but we can't talk too much about that without YouTube screwing us over. But he did acknowledge that yes, you do have the right to refuse to do certain things, but at the same time, he said basically you have a bigger responsibility uh, to society at large, which I do agree with. That's part of why I've moved beyond simple anarcho-capitalism. So what are your thoughts on the Schwarzenegger thing?
Well, my first thought was I know that through his father he has some links to actual Nazism. So my first thought was, well, he's very plays very fast and loose with our freedoms. Um, I know he was the governor of California for a while. Didn't do a particularly good job. Um, but yeah, I mean it's easy for him to say. I mean he doesn't have to you know he's a multi millionaire, so his life's a little bit easier than most people, and he has actually more freedom than probably most people do. Um, I know.
Yeah, and
I know he.
remember that time he was accused of having a kid with the nanny, and he was like, "No, I didn't have a kid with the nanny," but the picture of the kid looks exactly like him.
It was like a tan Schwarzenegger.
It was like a slightly smaller Schwarzenegger. It was a young Schwarzenegger.
Yeah,
Like
I believe that
he even did the
they've sent.
Conan. He did the Conan cosplay for like Halloween, and the picture looked exactly like Schwarzenegger.
Yeah, and I think he finally did eventually admit that. Yeah, that's obviously his son, and I think they kind of have a relationship now, which good for them. But yeah, that was
Yeah.
funny. I think that led to his divorce, right? Because she found out that he had a kid with the nanny, and then their relationship went to hell. That
Yeah.
was with because he was
And
with one of the Kennedys, wasn't he?
I forget who he was with. Um, Marie Shriver, Maria Shriver, or something like that. I know it was Shriver, but I can't remember if it was Marie or Maria.
Okay, yeah. So actually, yeah, it says Maria Shriver. They were married
Maria
from
Shriver.
1986 to 2017. So
Yeah.
really, she
So they were
was she
actually
was
married after that whole fiasco.
yeah. So she was the niece of JFK, RFK, Ted Kennedy,
Yeah.
etc. So I knew she had some tie to the Kennedys.
Yeah. See, I didn't really pay too much attention to the Kennedy ties there. Um, but it's also interesting to note that he ran as a Republican for governor of California, and when he got in, he ran things just like a typical Democrat.
Well, he's more akin to a Mitt Romney or a John McCain type Republican, where basically for all intents and purposes he might as well be a Democrat. Maybe he has some, I don't know, fiscal issues where he's a little bit to the right of some people on the left, but for the most part, you know, he's about the best you can do in California, I suppose.
Yeah,
But
probably.
see, he got in a situation very similar to what's going on now, where the governor got recalled. They had an election, and him being, I mean, I think he won more based on his celebrity than any particularly good policies he was running on, and the fact that he was a Republican, I mean, I
Yeah.
guess didn't matter to people.
Now that you mention it, wasn't Gallagher running for governor at the same time? The dude that smashes watermelons?
Yeah, I think there was about 30 or 40 people on the ballot. Yeah, I think he was one of
Yeah.
them. Yeah.
The Don says Rhino, Republican in name only. Yep.
Yeah, pretty much. Which is sad because, I mean, who's like the the ultimate action star, supposedly macho man, and he's
the
a
macho. He was the king
Yeah.
of the macho men. Basically, he was in more action movies than anyone else, and he had all the biggest roles in action movies. He was like a AAA actor, and he comes out and is basically a feminist.
Well, something tells me he doesn't exactly live his own life that way when he's out gallivanting with the maid.
He
and
wants other people to live that way.
Yeah. Yeah. So in the 2003 California gubernatorial recall election, he won with 48% of the vote.
48%.
Which is actually interesting because looking at the election here, there was another Republican, a guy called Tom McClintock, who got
I remember
like 13,
the name McClintock.
who got like 13% of the vote. So combined, the Republicans actually got like over 60% of the vote.
Yeah, in full disclosure, in 2004, I supported, what was it, Kerry for president?
Yeah, it was Bush v. Kerry. Yeah.
Yeah, I supported Kerry for president. But to be fair, I was like 10 years old at the time, 10 or 11. So I didn't quite grasp all the complexities of politics. I just knew that Bush started a war and it was really bad and war is bad. That was basically my thing.
Yeah, and I mean, I remember. I remember that particular election. That was actually the first election I was eligible to vote in, which I didn't vote. I didn't know anything really about politics or really care. But it's kind of like looking back. It probably wouldn't have made a difference if Kerry would have won. I mean, it would have been the same basic agenda, but.
Now, if Trump had run back then, actually, technically, Trump did run back then. He ran in 2000, but he didn't win it. But Trump,
he was under the Reform Party.
If Trump had been running multiple times and had been serious about it, we probably would have had a lot better situation by the mid 2010s.
He probably could have run as a Democrat back in the early 2000s.
Back then, he really could have, and he probably could have won too. I believe he ran as a Democrat in the year 2000, but he didn't get the nomination, and he's since then changed parties. The Don says, "I voted Bush. If I knew what I know now, no way." Well, I mean, it's kind of like that one line from Watchmen, when they voted for Nixon a third time, and they were like, well, it was either Nixon or the commies. Like, who were you going to vote for? Bush or, some communist? Someone who was a socialist, someone who made it clear they wanted to undermine the values of the United States. The Democrats have never really hidden that they hate the United States. They've always opposed, the United States. They supported the communists when the communism thing was big. They supported Nazis when Nazis were the thing. They opposed the civil rights movement. They opposed. They actually formed the KKK, and they they were responsible for the secession of the southern states during the Civil War era. So it's like, you know, you have one person who is not openly advocating the destruction of the United States, and one person who is. So who are you going to vote for? Even if both parties actively seek out the destruction of the United States, one of them is not just broadcasting it.
Yeah, and you know, you look at George Bush and John Kerry, though they both equally hated Trump. I mean, so
Yeah.
I mean they're both basically globalists, open borders. I mean Bush maybe. I mean, I know John Kerry's a big global warming guy, despite his incessant use of a private jet. So I mean,
Yeah.
maybe he would have pushed that whole green agenda a little bit more than Bush did. But see, I think the issue with Bush is that, and again, I wasn't even really involved in following politics at that time, but my understanding, based on everything I've learned since then, is that he talked a good game. You know, he would talk like, you know, he was you know, a fiscal conservative and this and that. But when it came down to it, when the rubber met the road, he was spending just as much as the Democrats. You know, he's the one that gave us the No Child Left Behind. You know, it was under Bush where they banned the incandescent light bulbs. You know, they mandated.
He also gave us he also gave us the Patriot Act, which is not patriotic at all.
The so-called Patriot Act, yeah.
Yeah, it's the Tyrant Act, really. It opened the way for the National Defense Authorization Act, which was what Obama put into place, which basically gave government totalitarian power.
Yeah, he started the Department of Homeland Security too. Was also after 9/11.
Yeah, and we did enter Iraq under false pretenses. You know, we actually had satellite footage, well, satellite images of the weapons of mass destruction being shipped out of Iraq and into Syria, which is where they stayed until 2013, when the what was it? What world organization went in and the United Nations? Yeah, that's the one. There's too many of them now.
They're inspectors, right?
They sent in inspectors into Syria, and they removed all the chemical weapons, all the weapons of mass destruction from Syria, and they confirmed in 2013 that Assad did not have chemical weapons. And now, of course, you know, they've been doing the same false flagging that they did with Iraq, with Syria. And it's like, can we fuck off out of the Middle East? And I do agree with Sticks on this, that if we had kept our word and left the Middle East when we said we were going to leave, the Taliban probably would not have acted up. They probably would have kept their side of the bargain. But, you know, Biden had to go and fuck things up.
Yeah, I did. I also saw that video, yeah, where, you know, that's a major insult to them by us saying, okay, we're going to do this, and then that date comes and goes, and we're still there.
Yeah. And so, what else is there going on in the world?
Well, it happened earlier in the week, but you did have the governor of New York, Andrew Cuomo, finally step down.
Yeah, and he stepped down. He didn't get fired. He actually just stepped down.
Yeah, and so supposedly he was going to get impeached, but I guess because he resigned, which he's still technically governor for another week and a half, I think, because he said his resignation would be effective in 14 days. You know, I guess he's he's given 2-week notice. But basically, the New York Assembly has said that they're not going to pursue impeachment on him, which they could do even if he technically resigns. They could still go through a whole investigation and bring everything out into the open, but they decided not to do that. So I guess they don't really care about all those accusers and finding out the actual facts. And
yeah, well, he is a politician, so they've got different protocols for criminal accusations against politicians than they do against average citizens.
You know what?
If you are one of the sheep herders, you get treated differently than the sheep.
Yeah, pretty much. And you know what? He might resurface at some point. You never know. I mean, he could run again. I mean, he could potentially win again in New York. I wouldn't put it beyond the realm of possibility.
Yeah. And what is it with people and voting for the same people over and over? I don't get that. Like, is it just the familiarity? Like, you don't want anyone new in there because you're not used to them? Is that really what people do?
I think so. I mean, I think people. I mean, I'm in Arizona, and we basically had the same thing with John McCain. He wasn't some great leader, or he never really did anything great politically, but it's just somebody gets in and they amass enough name ID and political connections where nobody ever really challenges them.
Yeah.
Where
Styx actually mentioned something like that in his book. I believe it was Against Communism, where he spoke about the redistributionism, going towards projects that don't really lead anywhere, such as like bridges to islands that are uninhabited and projects that just don't make sense. Also, that politicians can get a hold of more notoriety and be like stuck in the people's minds, so they can be more easily elected the next time around.
Yeah, I mean it makes total sense. I mean, I know where was it? I think in Florida, the one of the Democrat challengers that's running against Ron DeSantis for governor. I think she's the agriculture commissioner or something. Spent like $4 million to have her face plastered on every gas pump in the state of Florida.
Yeah, let me plaster my face on every gas pump in Florida, and that'll be a green, proposal there.
Right, and she just happens to be running for governor in the next election, so I'm sure it had nothing to do with that.
Yeah, honestly, if a politician could make me a promise that the mosquitoes will be gone next year, I'd vote for him. I am not a fan of the mosquitoes. I've had like 3 of them come at the back of my arm since I've been sitting here. And I've only been sitting here for 15 minutes?
Yeah, we've gotten a ton of rain here, so every time it rains, we always get inundated with.
It stormed 4 times this week, big storms, too.
Yeah, in fact, I remember when I was still in high school and I was living in New York. I remember the whole West Nile virus was a big deal, and they were actually spraying. They were actually spraying open areas for mosquitoes. You'd see the helicopters come by, and almost like crop dusters, they would spray chemicals or whatever, I guess, to get rid of mosquitoes. I guess they don't do that anymore.
Yeah, when I was living in Texas, they did that all the time. Actually, apparently, they do it on occasion in my state still in some places, but not enough. Not enough because there's still too many mosquitoes. We need a mosquito massacre sometime.
Need to fumigate.
Yeah, fumigate the whole state. So, is there anything else? God, is there anything else that's going on?
Well, I did confirm that you were indeed correct that Gallagher, he placed 16th in that recall election. He was running as an independent, and he got just over 5,400 votes for governor of California.
Wow.
Also running that time around, actor Gary Coleman, the little dude.
Oh yeah, I don't remember him running, but I remember Gallagher running.
Larry Flint, the hustler guy.
I agree, Don. The Don just said, I want my picture on all marijuana dispensaries across the country. Yes. Yes, please. With a phrase, with the text saying, give this man free samples.
Well, we have plenty of them here in Arizona, so.
We got a couple here, but it's still all medical stuff. You got to get like medical prescriptions and stuff.
Oh no, they just in the last election, it's recreational here in Arizona. So I think I think as long as you're
only medical here.
Wow. Wow, can't believe that happened in Arizona before Maryland. That's crazy.
Yeah, Maryland was making moves to do it in the early 2010s. I was reading in 2015 they had passed some legislation to decriminalize it. Very large amounts too. You can carry the legislation I read in 2015 was you can carry up to 10 grams on public property and have up to a half pound on your own property without it being an infraction. Where did you live in the state of Texas? Oh, that's me. Where did you live in the state of Texas? I lived in Ingleside when I was a kid, which is it's a little ways away from Corpus Christi. Don't know exactly where it is anymore. I used to.
Did you go to the beach a lot when you lived there?
Yeah. Yeah, there's Mustang Island, which was nearby, and you could take a ferry to get there. It was pretty cool.
Was it
Deep East Texas? I have no idea where that is.
So hey, the Don, is Texas gonna stay red or what? What's going on there? I know.
Yeah, Mustang Island is cool.
I know they were saying in the last election it was.
I think Texas will stay red.
Because I know
Texas
a lot of
will stay red. I don't think that Texans are going to be voting blue anytime soon, and they'd much sooner, go on a lynching spree of all the lefties.
Yeah, that would be a real shame to see Texas go the way of like Virginia or Colorado, where these formerly red states, go blue.
Yeah.
You know what? Let me. I'm gonna. I gotta step out for 1 second. I'll hopefully be back in a minute here.
All right. So while he is away, I wanted to give an update. I have decided to begin reviewing textbooks chapter by chapter on my channel. I have 5 textbooks right now. It's about to be 6. And I might be able to get a 7th very easily. And I can and will go through them chapter by chapter, reviewing each chapter, one video per chapter, explaining a general overview and some of the major concepts discussed in that chapter. I have currently 2 textbooks on psychology, one on physics, one on sanitation, and one on culinary arts. The 6th one is technically a construction textbook, although the one that I'm about to get, I am still keeping secret. We also have the Discord in the description here for anyone who wants to join that and go and, have more regular updates and, maybe have a place to chill on occasion. That sounds like fun, homework. Yeah, well, when I was in high school, I would correct my textbooks. So, yeah, I actually kind of do enjoy it. The academic work is very fulfilling to me. Um, I also, oh yeah, Amazon gave me a gift card last night, and I used it today to buy another book, which will be a surprise until it gets here, which Amazon says it'll be here Friday, so it'll probably be here Monday or Wednesday next week. I've also been thinking, because I do have a lot of books, like a lot of occult books and a lot of other books as well, some very good science books that I should. I know I said I was gonna get a stack of books and do a video of it, but I ended up not doing it just because I'm lazy. To finish up reading, got to finish up reading Michael Crichton. I'm actually almost done with Crichton already. I'm on chapter 28 right now, and there are 38 chapters, and that's not that many left in the book, and they're mostly short. It's really good so far. It started out really slow, but then it picked up around chapter 10. And is my audio frozen? Is my phone frozen? Is everything frozen? Oh, great. Oh, great. Oh, great. Okay. Okay, looks like it unfroze. That was not fun. Scary. Everything on the screen just stopped. The clock stopped. The counter stopped. My camera stopped. Everything stopped all at once. Off and on? Yeah. Oh, fun stuff. Fun day. It's actually kind of nice today. It's the high is supposed to be 84. The high has been up in the 90s the past week or so. So it's good to have a much lower temperature for today. And there's a nice breeze blowing. Oh, another thing that I could do is I have a whole bunch of movies and TV shows and whatnot, and I could do reviews of those and stuff. 85% humidity, damn. Yeah, well, it's actually today's like the first day in like 5 days it hasn't been humid. It's a little bit humid, but it's not like disgustingly humid today. But yeah, I could like do reviews of like movies and TV shows and whatnot. Um, if I had my computer up and running, I could actually do like more advanced uh, videos, even making memes using my computer, uh, even making like video memes, like comedic sketches and whatnot. I also have a ton of games. Someone suggested that I should, start another channel just for gaming, and I've got some hilarious commentary if you're open to the offensiveness of the style of humor. Um, hmm. I have been talking to other people about collaborations. I have a friend who was working on getting her degree in psychology, uh, who might be open to collaborating with me at some point. Psychology is a big deal for me. It's been a focus of mine since I was 14 years old. um, oh, my Marxist, yes, offensive comedy is best comedy. Yes. My Marxist materials playlist has just been updated, by the way. I added 2 audiobooks to it, although they're really one audiobook. It's just cut into 2 parts about Stalin's war crimes. And welcome back, Joe.
Hey, sorry about that. Of course, my son woke up. He usually stays down for a couple hours when he takes a nap, but I had to tend to him momentarily.
Yeah. So I was talking. If I had my computer up and running, I could make much better quality videos, like sketches and reviews and gaming videos even. And I have some really hilarious commentary if you're okay with offensive humor for the gaming stuff.
Oh, if
my
it's
daughter
not offensive,
is studying psychology. Huh?
I was gonna say, yeah.
But
If it's not at least somewhat offensive, then it's not real comedy, right?
yeah, see, I was playing Star Ocean Second Story, which is an old PlayStation 1 RPG, but I was reading the text, reading all the dialogue boxes and giving them like voices and stuff. And the main character, I gave a French accent, and like I added some words in there that aren't actually in there, and I was just cracking up myself. Are we still running? My screen froze again.
Still going.
Okay, my screen has been freezing up for some reason, and it's really bugging me.
Yeah, we were talking about the PlayStation game.
Yeah, and the commentary. The commentary is hilarious. I'm really upset about this stream quality, which is why I really wanted to do this yesterday because no one was home. No one, like we on the weekends, everyone is using Wi-Fi, so it runs much slower. And I had to be outside because of the inside situation with the thin walls and people watching TV and blasting shit on their computers and whatnot. But yeah, I could do the comedy thing if I get my computer up and running again. But that would take a Wi-Fi booster, and I don't know how much those cost. My daughter is studying psychology at University of Texas. That's awesome. Psychology is like one of my favorite things of all time.
Hey, the Don is your daughter is she conservative, or what's the deal with that? Because I know I I hear so many stories about people that come from conservative families and they go off to college and they fall for the darkness. Hopefully things are a little different in Texas, though.
Yeah, I would think that things are different in Texas. Texas is much more traditional. I mean, even the professors are have a tendency to be right wing.
Oh, well.
Lesbian conservative. Interesting. That reminds me of someone I knew. She was a lesbian Jewish Nazi. It was a very interesting person, but she was actually pretty cool. She actually got a hold of an EMF detector and found what seemed to be directed EMF in her house. Like, people were calling her crazy, and but she proved them wrong, getting her own EMF detector and going around her house showing, look, the EMF against this wall that shouldn't have any wires in it is much higher than right next to my Wi-Fi router. So she was
from like utility lines, or
she doesn't know. She was saying that she was being attacked using some sort of EMF weapon. I don't know if it's true, but there's something to it, because she was able to prove that there's a larger amount of EMF right on her bedroom wall than there is anywhere else in her house.
Speaking of that, you know, it sounds familiar. There's been several, I would say, similar instances in the U.S. Embassy, I think in Cuba, and I think there were some in Europe, where the people that were working there were complaining of like hearing weird noises, and they were getting headaches, and they were actually, I guess, they were medically evaluated, and it turns out that they suffered some kind of like brain injury, and they think it's some sort of like directed energy weapon that's being used.
It's really strange. You know, there's this thing called the neurophone. I know I told a story about this back in my occult video. The neurophone, you put it on your cheek, your chin, like up here, or right on your forehead, and it plays music right through the skin. You actually pick up the sounds through your skin and bones.
Is that the voice to skull technology?
Something like that. But there was another version of this, which was originally intended as a weapon to basically drive people insane, and the broadcast corporation A&E bought it and used it to advertise Paranormal State.
Jeez.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
And you can still find video of that. They had a sign that also had this device on it that would, like, if you walked into a certain spot, you would hear this voice saying, "Come over here," or "Watch this show." And then you turn around and there would be the billboard for Paranormal State.
Yeah, I know I've heard of the voice to skull technology where supposedly, you know, they do it to like basically drive people insane or make people question their own reality.
Yeah.
Okay, so
there's also the CIA actually unveiled a heart attack gun that uses some sort of electromagnetic pulse, and this was back in the 60s, I believe, that there was a court case about it.
Is that what they got Andrew Breitbart with?
Maybe, I don't know.
Because he was, you know, a 40-something-year-old guy and was walking down the street one day and supposedly just dropped dead of a heart attack. And he was a major thorn in the side of the Obama administration.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he very easily could have gotten Clinton.
Yeah, just like that. Just in the last couple of months.
I saw a meme. It said, "How to kill COVID-19. Tell Hillary Clinton that it has information that will get her arrested."
Pretty much, yeah, pretty much.
By the way, the Dom. Yes, I'm actually the same way. Most of the gays I know are conservative. They oppose Pride mainly because it's obscene. It is public sex displays, which straight people don't do, and they're just trying to have equality, whereas Pride Parade is not about equality. It's about degeneracy.
Yeah, it's kind of like the equivalent of I don't know if you remember these infomercials they used to have back in the day for something called Girls Gone Wild.
Oh yeah.
It's basically
old school.
Yeah, it's basically the equivalent of that, except for gay people. But yeah, I think
public in front of children.
Yeah, I think most people just want to live their life. They don't want to be up in everybody's faces. I mean, I think most common sense people are that way. The same. So
yeah, most people want to be monogamous, really, and they want to have their rights assured. The whole Pride thing. It's not about monogamy. It's not about love or rights or equality. It's literally about degeneracy. And a lot of people who care about rights, well, they're going to care about gun rights, so they can't be leftist. They're going to care about private property rights, so they can't be leftist.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much. I mean, especially, depending on where you live, that could potentially make you a target. So, wouldn't you want to defend yourself? I mean, wouldn't?
Yeah.
If it comes down to it.
So, anything else you can think of?
Well, what do you think about Joe Biden going on vacation while everything's unraveling in Afghanistan? I mean, it's on top of him breaking the initial deal.
Done what he planned to do. He planned on causing more trouble. So at least as far as he's concerned, he's done his job, and now he's got to go take a vacation.
Could you see them staging another terrorist attack and say, oh well, we now we have to go back to Afghanistan?
I could see them do that, but I think the focus is going to shift over to Iran. Actually, I've seen some documentaries that make me very angry about what's been going on with Iran. Iran was actually trying to make a nuclear power plant, and they were slandered by the U.S., basically being told, U.S. citizens were basically told that Iran was trying to build nuclear weapons. One of the reasonings given is that Iran was purifying its uranium in a civilian space, which makes it illegal for the U.S. to bomb without, damaging civilians. But that's like, why do you need to bomb people? Why does it need to be bombable in order for it to be legitimate? That doesn't make any sense. And the U.S. actually sent them a program which basically hacked into their system and caused one of their centrifuges to fail and
That was the
almost killed a whole bunch of people.
Stuxnet, right? Was that what they sent over there?
Stuxnet, something like that. Yeah, it was not good. Not good.
Well,
but see, like, they were legitimately making a power plant, trying to make a power plant. And the U.S. wants them to be dependent on oil. But why should they not have a nuclear power plant? You know, that would more energy is better. It's it's cause for more peaceful coexistence.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the theory was that that they're developing weapons under the guise of developing a power plant.
Yeah, well, that's the theory, but they kept it out in the open, and like I've watched interviews with the scientists, and the scientists seem to very much believe they were doing good for the state of energy in Iran. So I don't think that they were actually building a nuclear weapon, and even if they were, who the fuck cares? They weren't actually violating any treaties by just purifying uranium. And since the U.S. screwed them over like that, they have actually signed a treaty saying that they will halt their nuclear energy program entirely. And it's not that they're not going to make nuclear weapons, it's that they are not going to do anything with nuclear materials at all. But I am very much in favor of nuclear energy because it is actually clean energy. It is very potent, very clean, very sustainable. And I saw the scientists after they were shut down, and they were like depressed. They looked depressed from not being able to continue their work. That doesn't say to me that they were, trying to build weapons. If they were trying to build weapons, they'd be angry,
Yeah,
But
I
think
I
that
think
Iran and Syria are the next two targets for invasion.
well, what tells me that is one of two things. One, the Democrats now are the de facto war party. Even they've kind of switch roles with the Republicans. It used to be the Republicans were more of the pro war party, and the Democrats were more of the anti war party. I think it's the opposite now. And two, I think the Democrats are in very poor shape going into the midterm elections. So, what better way to, I don't know, get the public on their side than to be seen as the wartime party, and got to get behind the wartime party by either
Most people do. It's just that the left doesn't anymore, and a lot of people are waking up to that fact, or have woken up to that fact. Actually, like I've said this before, the left has shrunk down to about 20% of the American population. And the reason that is because people who are capable of thinking have noticed that the left is behind all the bad shit. They are pro-war, they are against the rights of the individuals, they are pro-totalitarianism, and they are liars. They are horrible, horrible liars.
Yeah, I mean, definitely, and that's but then again, if they do start another war, you could see, the so-called I don't know, woke wing of the Democrat Party splinter off and leave the Democrat Party altogether. So there's that possibility too.
Yeah.
Sort of the not the neoliberal wing of the party, but the AOC, Ilhan Omar, that wing of the party, which might legitimately be anti-war, but they don't have as much power in the party as
Ilhan
obviously
Omar is actually very much in favor of war. She just probably won't say anything about it. If you look at how she runs her city, she's basically just bringing Somalia to her region of the world, trying to recreate Somalia. So she does want war. She just won't say it.
She wants to be the warlord, I guess.
Yeah, AOC doesn't want war per se. She just wants revolution, which is basically the same thing. She is a Marxist. She is a full-blown Marxist, and she doesn't really.
She wants a civil war, is what she wants.
Yeah, probably. But she wants a civil war where her side wins, but that's not ever going to happen.
God, could you imagine? Because she was literally hiding under her desk when something was going on a block away. She would be the first one out of here if anything ever really did pop off.
Yeah. Yeah, she's not very brave and also not very intelligent. Though she is very hot.
Well, that's why she gets a pass. It's just because of the way she looks.
Yeah, when we are slaughtering all the leftists, I think I'm gonna keep a couple of them alive, just for my own fun time.
Yeah, when we get to that point, yeah, we can kind of pick and choose at that point. Yeah.
But there's actually a meme about her. It says, if you want a vision of the future, imagine AOC's feet stamping on your face for the rest of your life. And it's got a mock-up of her in a communist uniform with her feet out, and she's like in a sexy pose and shit. And it, yeah, lol. But someone posted that on Twitter last year, and he was like, "He didn't have to make it so horny." And I was like, yes, he did. Yes, he did.
Supposedly she has like a whole army of people that just go through Twitter looking for anything negative about her and try to flag it and get it removed. Supposedly.
Yeah.
And speaking of
the army of simp lords.
Although I do have to say that in my experience, on average, conservative women are much more attractive than liberal women, for sure.
On average, yeah, generally. Even Brandy Love just recently became a conservative. Or at least she came out as conservative.
Brandy. Oh, is that the one that was at the that Turning Point USA conference?
Yeah, she's the porn star.
Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of knew her by name long before this happened. Not gonna say why though. Think we can all imagine.
What's interesting too is who's in the last few years has come out as well, not come out, but actually changed their views to be more conservative. Are you familiar with Kat Von D?
Oh, she's come out as conservative?
Yeah. She used to be a leftist actually, but I think she got married, and I think her husband has red pilled her because
I didn't know she got married.
Yeah, she got married. She had a kid, and she's like she's left California. She she and her husband moved and bought some land and a big house in Indiana.
Wow.
I think she's backing Larry Elder in the recall election for California governor. And now, mind you, I only know about her because my wife's been a fan of hers for a long time. And actually, she used to own her own makeup line, and she had some
I've
contest.
actually seen her makeup line before.
You've seen it, yeah.
Yeah. They sold it at Hot Topic, I think.
Yeah,
Not that I went there often.
She had some contest. It was some creative contest with makeup. I don't know all the details, but whoever the winner was, I guess people complained because that person was a Trump supporter. So, and this was just like 4 or 5 years ago. Kat Von D said, "You're not the winner. We're going to pick somebody else because we can't have somebody win who's a bigot and this and that." And fast forward to now, she's totally red pilled. So, I guess there is hope for some people.
Yeah, she was always kind of really hot. But this isn't always a good thing. Sometimes people come out as conservative just to hide things. For example, Mercedes Carrera. She's another porn star. She came out as conservative back during the Gamergate thing. But it turned out that she was involved in like a pedo ring and a drug smuggling thing, and
well, that's not very conservative.
Yeah, that's really not conservative at all. Well, I mean, unless you're conserving Moloch, but yeah.
Yeah, that's not that's not the kind of conserving we want to do.
Yeah, but I mean, publicly she was conservative. She was defending conservative points. She was talking with conservative pundits and speaking out in favor of conservatism. And then in private, she was basically smuggling children.
Well, it's very interesting because here, just in the last week or two, we had in Arizona a Democrat Arizona state senator was arrested for supposedly being involved with several underage boys.
Oh wow!
And this guy was like one of the leading Democrats in the Arizona State Senate. Who
he wasn't Catholic, was he?
I'm unsure of that. But he was actually on this show with some leftist comedian, I think, called Samantha Bee, where where they were mocking conservatives for not wanting to teach kindergartners about sex. And then literally 2 months later, it comes out he's a freaking pedophile, literally.
Yeah.
Which they've tried to scrub that off the internet, but it's out there where he was on that show with Samantha Bee mocking conservatives for not wanting to teach 5-year-olds about sex, and now we know why.
Any regret about it?
Probably not.
He's like, now that I'm thinking about it, that was kind of creepy, and maybe I shouldn't have done that. But you're right. She probably doesn't care because she's a leftist, and leftists just don't give a shit.
I mean, it's like, regardless of your politics, I mean, if you catch somebody at the grocery store talking to a 5-year-old about sex, you beat the heck out of them and throw them in jail. But yet, you want to do that in every school, and it's like, no, we're not going to do that.
Now, like, for me, I actually had books when I was a kid. When I was like 4 or 5 years old, I had books that discussed sex, but they weren't like pornographic. They were scientific. One of them was like actually both of them were like fascinating facts textbooks, and they just had a whole bunch of different assorted facts, and just happened to have facts about the human body and growing up and sexuality. So I do. There are certain forms and circumstances under which I can see that's acceptable. But
Well, I think
even then,
in
that's the parents giving their children scientific information, whereas, this is some rude in school teaching children about sex, and you can't be there to observe it.
yeah. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, I guess, at some point, sex education becomes appropriate in school, as long as it's done in a scientific way and not in a, like, hey, here's how you do this, and some people do this and some people do that. It's but up until that point, that's completely the purview of the parents, and what, obviously it's not beneficial to leave all of that information for your kid to learn elsewhere. Obviously, you as a parent want to teach them in your own way that's appropriate, but that's the thing is, I know a lot of people like to talk about, and it's always made a big public deal of whenever somebody in a church is doing something inappropriate with a kid, but it happens just as much in the school system too. But it's not presented in the same negativity as it is in a church, even though these are people that
usually in the school system, more often than not, it is a female teacher with a male student. So people just tend to not see it as seventh grade. I think actually when I was in school, it was sixth grade that they taught that. But usually when it's a male student and a female teacher, it's not seen as that bad of a thing, especially for guys who do remember being in school, being a teenager in school and having a crush on your teacher.
Yeah, I mean,
I do remember that.
Yeah, it's still, because, if you're a 12-year-old kid and there's some,
if you're 12, that's wrong. Yeah.
Like some 40-year-old teacher, I mean, you're you may have certain feelings, but when it comes to the mental side of things, you're not necessarily ready for what's going on, or
did you know that in Europe they actually start teaching children sex ed as young as 9 years old?
I don't doubt it. Yeah, I mean, because I know in some of those countries isn't the age of consent like 13, 14?
In Europe, most of the European nations, I believe it's 16. In Mexico and Japan, it's actually 13. In Germany and Austria, it is 14.
Well, and the thing is that in and of itself isn't necessarily a bad thing, but we know here it's the leftists that want to corrupt the kids. So unfortunately, it's going to be taught in a way that is not something that's going to end up being good for the kids. It's not like, oh, here's what this body part's like.
Kids about anal sex and oral and homosexuality and all this, when really they should just be teaching them the functions, like what does each body part do, and what diseases are there, what problems can arise, what functionality happens in the vajayjay, how does pregnancy take place, shit like that. But they're literally trying to teach kids kink.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's why I said, in and of itself, in a perfect world, or just in a world where teachers taught the basic facts, it wouldn't be a bad thing. But most I mean, our I think they literally just passed a law in Oregon where you don't even have to prove that you're proficient in writing or math to graduate high school. I don't know if you saw that, because supposedly it's not equitable for so-called minority students. So they just get rid of the standards altogether.
Yeah, but one of the smallest minorities in the country is actually highly adept at both writing and mathematics. Asians, East Asians.
Right. Well,
but actually,
that kind of blows up.
Mathematics, I used to be more on the side of, why do we need math to graduate high school? But now I'm actually much more on, like, math is very important and we need to teach it better in school. And the reason why I had this shift is because after I was always bad at math, right? But in the past 5 years, I've actually gotten really good at math. Like 2018, at the beginning of 2018, I was at a fourth grade level. At the end of 2018, I had enough mathematics to impress pretty much any college professor. But the thing is, mathematical reasoning gives you a very high amount of precision with which you can think with. You can take that sort of precise thinking into other areas of your life, which makes mathematics very, very important. And we've basically destroyed the way in which we teach math.
Well, with the whole Common Core and...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That's even worse. Back in 1998, there was a talk given by Ralph Abraham, Terence McKenna, and Rupert Sheldrake. And Abraham, who was a chaos theorist, had pointed out the destruction of mathematics in American education. That was almost 30 years ago. And we've gotten worse. The destruction of mathematics is pretty much complete at this point.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at like statistical rankings, the United States is like dozens of places behind other countries, when it comes to learning math, when it comes to learning science, but they're number one when it comes to being in touch with their feelings.
Yeah, it's kind of the opposite of what it should be, really. And actually, we aren't in touch with our feelings. People are confused more than ever about their feelings. But they will report that they are in touch with feelings, which is not a good thing. People are spending a lot more time on social media, a lot less time in solitude, a lot less time thinking and introspecting, which is all necessary in order to understand your own feelings. But people think that they understand their feelings and are told by authority figures that the first thing that springs to mind is the absolute depth of their feeling.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree. I mean, it's not that we're not capable of having an education system that's training people in a proper way. It's just that doesn't serve the agenda of leftists, and leftists run the education system from pre-K to all the way through college, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And they're more concerned with churning out leftists than churning out people who are able to critically think and problem solve and figure things out.
Yeah, they want cookie cutters. They don't want critical thinkers. They want slaves they can control, as opposed to people who can see the chains, people who can see the problems and break through those problems.
Pretty much, if you can critically think and you know basic logic, you can see right through what the leftists are saying. But obviously, if you're able to do that and you're able to give that to students, then that wouldn't serve their purpose. So
Yeah. And this really, I would say this really started with the factory education design, because factory schooling was really designed to replicate actual factory work. You know, you have the bell that calls for the end of each period. You have a designated lunchtime, and you have specific arrangements in each class. Now, you may think that that just creates order, but it kind of distances people. It's not. It's kind of designed to fail. You know, people who are challenged socially but not academically do not thrive in this environment. People like that would actually do much better if they were allowed to, you know, go hang with people that they already know in like the library and be quiet reading on their own time or reading on the school's time. And people who are loud and obnoxious, they really, really need to be isolated. They can't be, you know, given priority over people who actually want to learn. There should actually be a more elective system in place with a more fluid and free-flowing structure.
well, you know, it's nowadays too. It's almost impossible to actually kick a kid out of school. You know, especially somebody who's disruptive and not allowing other kids to learn.
I wish it was hard to get out of school when I was in school, because I got kicked out all the time.
Well, if they were getting the right people out, we'll say.
Yeah.
But you have a whole political establishment in one of the parties now that literally says, well, math exacerbates white supremacy, or science, you know, being able to.
It does, because white supremacy is culture, and we can't have culture and progress.
Yeah, it's like
I'm not being serious, by the way. I'm not being serious about that.
Well, no, it's like, well, because some people can't meet the standards. Well, let's just get rid of the standards altogether, and then let's just have everybody be dumb. You know,
yeah, I would say that's the dumbest idea ever. You know, the Army keeps lowering its standards. It lowered its standards for women. It lowered its standards for age requirements, for health requirements. The United States Army, not the Navy, not the Marine Corps, not the Air Force. The Army has the lowest standards of pretty much any military force in the world. You can be a 45-year-old man and join the Army. You can be 20 pounds overweight and join the Army. You can be a woman and not able to do half the work and still pass.
Well, it's almost like they have to do that, because the average person now, you know, I mean, if they kept the standards the same, the talent pool would be so narrow that we wouldn't have the number of people that we need.
But it's the lowering of standards that lowers the quality of the whole organization. You need to narrow things down so that only the best of the best can get in. You need to have stricter standards in schools so that kids have something to aspire to and aren't just getting a participation trophy. You need to reward good behavior and hard work. You can't just give everyone a trophy and say, go home. That's literally just what communism is.
Yeah,
It
and that's a
doesn't
big part
work.
of the
It
problem.
promotes laziness.
Yeah, I mean that's a big part of the problem too. Is that like I literally know people in my personal life who have kids who have certain learning disabilities, and they're like asking the school basically to hold their kid back a grade so they can catch up, and the school just keeps, well, passing you along, because basically they lose funding if they hold a certain amount of kids back. So even if that's going
Yeah.
to academically benefit the kid, maybe they need another year to get certain concepts so that way they can actually start learning and start building on that knowledge. But they keep moving them ahead to where they're always behind and they're never going to be able to catch up.
And see, this is why I do actually support changing the system. I've studied a little bit of ancient Greece, and the first academy, which was started by Plato, it did have a much more free form sort of structure to it. People advanced at their own rate. People were, not held back by a grade, but were held back by their own efforts. And you could study whatever you wanted, really, which is how things should be. People, not everyone is suited for the same thing. A big buff dude with an IQ of 70 is not going to be a math major. He might be a good football player. He might be a good mechanic even. But he's not going to be a fucking mathlete. He's not going to be writing world-class scientific papers or running the Hadron Collider. He might lift the Hadron Collider.
Yeah, I mean, I think that makes perfect sense. That I mean, at a certain point, I think they say, what is it? But by the time you're 8 or 9 years old, like basically your intelligence is what it is.
Oh, that's nonsense. That's total nonsense. I've been arguing against that for years now. You can increase your intellect. Maybe not by much, but you can do it.
Well, I mean, as far as what you're capable of doing now, you may not be reaching your full potential, but as far as like what you're able to do, they say it's about 80% genetic and maybe 20% other factors. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I'd say it's about 80-20.
But to add on to what you're saying, that I think that makes perfect sense. That when we recognize, like the individual you were describing, that if you could start them down a path that could see them be successful, rather than maybe trying to force them to be in AP science when maybe that's just not something that's ever going to be appealing to them, or something that they're going to succeed in, right?
There should be some standard classes that everyone should take. Like everyone should take literacy courses and math courses, and everyone should take some health and fitness courses. But not everyone is going to succeed at the same level in those, and not everyone is going to go into a field which requires those. It goes in the opposite way too. You got the big bulky dude with an IQ of 70, and you got the skinny Asian kid with an IQ of 200. They're not going to succeed in sports. They're not going to succeed in lifting, but they are going to succeed in the math, in the science, in the writing, in the literacy. And, forcing everyone into the exact same mold is not good. It's holding some kids down. It's pushing some kids forward when they really shouldn't be there.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree with that. I mean, I know, and I think it's even worse now. But when I was in high school, when I was in junior high, everything that you were told from your guidance counselor to your teachers was everybody has to go to college. Like that's just what you do. Whether you have a plan, whether what you want to be or what you can be requires college or not. Basically, as soon as you're out of here, you need to find a college to go to.
Yeah, I thought the same thing, honestly. Have you ever heard of Freeman Dyson?
I have not, no.
Freeman Dyson died last year, but before he died, he was one of my heroes. He was a professor at Princeton who never got a PhD. He never got any degree beyond his standardized education, and yet he became a professor at Princeton simply because on his own time he studied mathematics and became so adept at it that he impressed college professors. He impressed Princeton University professors, and he even managed to solve equations that they were struggling with for years. A college degree only certifies you. It only certifies you. It does not give you the skills. It does not mean that you have the skills. It also doesn't mean that if you don't have that certification, you don't have the skills. You can build up the skills on your own time without having this strict certification process. And it is very cult-like, by the way. Colleges are very much like cults, which is not good.
Well, it's so much of college, colleges these days, you could probably get rid of half of the academic departments and they wouldn't really be losing anything.
Yeah.
Especially public universities that are funded by taxpayers. It's like, well, do we really want to subsidize, somebody that's getting a degree in, I don't know, women's studies the same way we want to subsidize maybe somebody that's going there for electrical engineering?
Yeah. And that's part of the destruction of education too. Like, actually, Styx brought that up in one of his books about how there are school courses devoted to the most nonsensical topics that you will never be able to get a job in. There's no reason to be getting a job in, to be studying that as a specific topic in the first place. And it just seems to be there to waste money and destroy academia.
Well, I mean, and that's the problem too, is that colleges these days are just they're suitable for leftist indoctrination. So even if you do go to school for one of the hard sciences, they make you as a prerequisite have to take so many of these like nonsense classes that you probably could get all the whether it's computer science or architecture or whatever, you probably could get out of there in 2 to 3 years, but they tack on all this other BS that why do you need to take white people are bad class or something like that, for 20 credits.
Why do you need to take African American studies to, get a fucking robotics degree. Is the robot black?
Right. And I've often said that I think that there should be just like you can get a GED, that for certain for certain majors there should be some equivalent that you can go through a course or take a test and basically be able to get like a bachelor's equivalent in certain subjects, because you could just be self-taught.
That scared the crap out of me, by the way.
I missed it. What was that?
You didn't hear the loud bang?
No, I didn't. Must have.
I think someone set off a firecracker over there, but it was loud. It was real loud. It was like an M80.
Or gunshots or something.
It wasn't a gunshot. It was like right there, though.
Who's setting off firecrackers in the middle of August?
Well, they set them off all the time, but like it really takes off during the summer. My thing is, kids are not being taught critical thinking skills, and those are incredibly important. And the earlier that you teach kids critical thinking skills, the better. But again, and you won't have critical thinking classes until college, and even then, they are elective. They are entirely elective. They're not required for any graduation or any sort of degree. So really, we are doing things in the opposite way of how they should be done. We should be, beginning with teaching kids how to read, how to write, and then teach them critical thinking skills, and then start teaching them history so that they can know about their past. They can know about things that came before them. Well, and I've kind of lived through some of the dumbing down, by the way. I've kind of lived through, I went to school in the early 2000s a little bit. I went to school in the 90s. I went to school in the early 2000s. And I got to watch the dumbing down of education in the school system. At least to a little bit of an extent. I graduated high school in 2012, which was a semester late, by the way. And the reason why I graduated late is because I just didn't do any of the work a lot of the time. I was challenged too much socially and not enough academically. So I'd get bored doing the work and would be stressed, surrounded by people that stressed me out. So I just would.
Let me ask you this: So what would you have changed for your situation? Do you think you would have done better in like a virtual learning environment, or I mean, how would you change the social element of it?
If virtual learning had been a thing back then, I think I would have done better at it. A lot of like standard high schools have classrooms with way too many kids, with like 40 or 50 kids in a single class. That's way too many. Even 30 is way too many. No, you need to have one-on-one time with a teacher. Most people need one-on-one time with a teacher. For me, I would have done better in a smaller class because there just wouldn't be that many people around. I wouldn't have to deal with the stress of having a whole crowd of people constantly surrounding. And as far as the work goes, well, they could have, changed the way they taught it, because mathematics was not taught to me properly. I was taught that, math is the way it is because that's the way it is. I didn't understand it. I didn't get it at all. In 2018, I realized math is the way it is because it describes things. And understanding the things that it describes helped me to learn it.
Well, and
And I've
that's
learned
the
it
thing
very
too.
easily
Is
since then.
yeah, is that a lot of it? I mean, maybe certain people aren't doing well, but if they had different teachers who could get through and explain things in a different way where it makes sense, could have a completely different outcome. I mean, you could have somebody literally almost go from failing to actually succeeding, just having a good teacher or having multiple
Yeah.
good teachers.
Yeah. And one of the things that is weird is that I actually failed art class. And the reason why I failed art class is because I just didn't do anything. I would sit in art class and just not do anything. Just sit there. Because I just didn't like being directed to do art. I didn't like the projects that I was supposed to do. I didn't like I really already had the opinion that art should be free form and not structured and rigid. It should also be from the heart, but you're commanding me to make something artful, and you're commanding me to do it in a certain way. So I had the class. I didn't want the class. I chose actually woodshop, and I didn't get into woodshop. So I just sat in the class and twiddled my thumbs.
What do you think about the idea of like something like art? Okay, so it's probably something that kids should be exposed to and should learn about. But
Well, this
what
wasn't
about
like exposing people to art. It was like, you need to make this paper mache thing, or like you need to draw a hand like this. And it wasn't like exposing people to art history or anything. People should be exposed to art history, but like,
yeah?
this was making art, and I hated it. And it was a high school class too. It was like a junior year class. It was bad.
Well, what I was saying is what about the idea that maybe something like that is something that we should have in school and kids should be exposed to it, but it shouldn't be something that is graded, or it shouldn't be something that there's even a grade given where you're just, okay, here's the basics, but art isn't something like being good at math or science where we are going to judge you on that.
I think art should be an elective. Art history, maybe not so much of an elective, but if you're taking actual art class, that should be an elective. Like, if you're learning the skills of art, that should be an elective. Because if I had the choice to not be in that class, I would not have ever been in that class.
Yeah.
And the only reason I was in that class is because someone screwed up the roster and didn't get me into woodshop like I actually wanted. And you know what? The cool thing is, as soon as I did get into woodshop, I impressed my teacher there. Now, of course, I ended up getting kicked out like 2 months later, but I ended up getting kicked out of school 2 months later, but my teacher was impressed, my woodshop teacher. And I had a great time. I actually felt like I accomplished something. And it was meaningful to me.
Yeah, I don't even know if most schools even have woodshop anymore.
Oh, not anymore, no. And I felt lucky to have that experience too.
Yeah, I mean, I was fortunate when I was in like 7th grade, 8th grade. I was able to take those classes, and we had to make a car with a CO2 cartridge in the back, and you had to design the car and make it aerodynamic and make it your own and paint it and everything.
That sounds awesome. That actually sounds pretty awesome.
Yeah, it was. It was fun, and the teacher's a cool guy, and yeah, it was actually a fun class. And I mean, I almost think now,
for me, in woodshop, the first thing I did was build a box, and it was just like you're required to build a box because as the first thing, just so you can get acquainted with the tools and stuff. After that, my teacher came over and he was like, well, what do you want to build now? And I was like, I want to build a plane. And his dad had actually built B-52s in World War II. So when I told him that I wanted to build a B-52 bomber, he was like, okay, I will help you because that's actually really cool.
Yeah, no, exactly. I mean, it's something. Yeah, it's just, you look at some of the classes that the schools have now, and then classes that they don't have, and it's like, well, let's, like where's all this money going? Because they spend
Yeah.
a lot of money on education. I mean,
And it's like home ec. Home ec is actually a good class and should be taught in school, but it's not anymore. It was removed because it was sexist or something. But in reality, it just teaches people valuable life skills, and they removed it because they want people to be dependent.
Yeah, I was even thinking like, they need like I don't know, just a life skills class where, because not everybody learns how to change a tire. You know what I mean? Or, how to.
People who don't even know how to cook.
I know.
There's I actually did have the fortune in middle school. I was in some extracurricular program where I got to sew. So I learned how to sew, and I know how to make pillows.
Yeah.
I can make a mean pillow.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah, I had wood shop. They actually called it, at the school I was at, they called it technology, even though it was basically wood shop. I took home ec. I wasn't very good at it, but I got through it. I made cakes and different things, and it gives me the basics. I mean, I can cook basic things. I mean, I'm not a 5-star chef, but I can do.
Yeah,
I know people that can't even.
From high school, from about junior year of sophomore year of high school onward, to this day, I've actually been a cook as a hobby, and I went to college. This is the only thing I actually went to college for, is culinary arts, and I studied under a 5-star chef.
Wow.
I had to drop out though. Didn't get to finish that course. But it was fun, and I still have my materials, and I still have the skills, and I can cook 5-star meals.
Is that something like? I mean, do you want to, I don't know, have your own restaurant, or work at a restaurant? Is that?
I don't know. I took culinary arts in college because, I figured it would be intelligent enough. It was the most intelligent option because there's always jobs in the food industry, and having a degree or a certification in culinary arts would actually, just raise my status there. But these days I'm actually much more focused on like more pure science, such as physics and psychology and chemistry.
Yeah, it's wild. Like I wish I had the same interest now that back when I was in high school, like thinking about going to college, because I totally would have had more of a direction, I think, in life, because I almost think if people are going to go to college, you shouldn't go right from high school to college. That I think it would do most people a world of good to take a couple years and just work and live life and learn, really learn the value of a dollar and what you actually want to invest your time, your money, your energy in to actually pursue, rather than just going from grade 12 to grade 13, basically, actually have a little bit of life experience before you make a big decision, especially if you have to take out loans or whatever.
Yeah. I think we're getting pretty close to where we were last time, actually.
Yep.
Almost an hour and 45 minutes.
I was just seeing the Don said vocational classes when I was in school: automotive, carpentry, welding, TV and radio, beauty school, food service. The free haircuts were cool. Yeah, like you don't get any
comments
of that
earlier about the designated smoking section. I said he was lucky, but I didn't read out the comment. It is lucky to have a designated smoking section in high school.
Hey, I'll say this. I've never been a smoker, but I actually oppose all of these like anti, smoking laws and stuff. Like I think you should be able to smoke in a public place if you want, but that's just me.
I also think that we should bring back gun class like it was in the 50s.
Yeah, do you know Michael Savage, the radio guy?
I think I've heard the name.
Well, anyways,
go the dogs.
He was, he's a guy in his 70s now, and he talks about when he was in high school, they had a gun club. They're like a shooting club, and as a kid, he brought a rifle to school. There was kids that brought rifles to school, and they never had a school
there were
shooting.
No school shootings back then.
Right.
But yeah, there's all sorts of pictures you can find of kids, like young kids too, bringing their rifles to school, and there's a shooting range at the school, and the teachers are there like, go shoot.
Well, we don't want to create little advocates for the Second Amendment in school. We can't have that.
Can't have free individuals who care about their rights. Yeah.
Wow.
Can't have people who are capable of defending themselves.
Yeah, it's just wild. It's just wild to think that, now it's like, oh my God, a kid has a gun at school, but where it was like back in the day, it was like, oh yeah, I'm just gonna put this in my locker, and then after school, I'm gonna go shoot.
Yeah.
With the shooting club.
Yeah, I'd love to see a return to that.
And the truth is, you probably could have something like that in the majority of schools and not have a problem. It's just certain, certain areas where it might be an issue. But other than that, I think it would be fine.
There was an article I saw a few years back about a kid who got banned from school or suspended from school for pointing out that one of the clouds looked like a gun. And it apparently caused such a ruckus that school had to be closed for the rest of the day. Classes were canceled and kids were sent home, but that kid was suspended for like 2 weeks.
Yeah, or like the kid that
dumb.
Or there was a kid once in the last handful of years that had a Pop-Tart, and he was chewing on the Pop-Tart and had it in the shape of a gun and pointed it at somebody, and they suspended the kid. It's like, really?
Yeah, there were kids pointing pencils at each other, going pew pew pew, and they both got suspended.
Yeah.
Like, we need to let kids have their play. And we also need to let them have their guns so that they grow up knowing the responsibility, knowing how to handle themselves and their weapon.
Yeah,
I
totally agree.
Really having more armed people at a school reduces the risk of violence breaking out at that school.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, so you want to wrap up here?
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
All right, thank you to the Don for watching.
Yeah. Shout out to the
Thank
Don.
you, Joe. Joe's channel is in the description. So is the link to my Discord. Please go and join the Discord. For anyone who has donated money to me, you actually get special status in the Discord and will be able to access portions of it that other people do not have access to. So thank y'all for watching, and peace.